All right, class, hello. We're going to be getting started in just a couple of minutes here. Let me call this up. All right. So first of all, as I'm looking through our discussion activity, and it looks like everybody, I'm not sure quite how this happened. Everybody started a new discussion. So that should not be a setting that's allowed. Okay, so if you posted your introduction, as you'll see on the screen here, these are actually supposed to show up in discussion board 1. So you open discussion board 1, you click reply, and that's where you need to put your discussion. So we won't have that issue in future discussions because I turned off that setting, but you just need to make sure that you're actually replying to discussion board 1 rather than starting an entirely new thread, because you're basically creating a bunch of different discussions here. So I'm not going to have you redo those or anything, but for future discussion boards, please just make sure that you are actually replying to the discussion activity rather than creating an entirely new thread there. Okay, so what I wanted to do today, I wanted to talk about our first essay assignment, and I also wanted to talk about chapter 1. So our first essay assignment is a documented memo that is available under week 1. So you can access that there. And essentially what you're being asked to do here is to investigate a career and to tell me some of the details about it, in terms of your salary expectation, the educational requirements, the job market, but also to then talk about how that particular career shapes your identity and really helps create the person who you are. And I have a sample that I'm going to go through that demonstrates exactly how this works. But you can see under assignment here, compose a memo to the course professor in which you analyze a possible career choice, specifically focusing on the analysis of how working in that career might have a long-term influence on personal identity. So I know that for me as an English professor, as I read things or watch the news or watch a movie or watch a show, I often think about it in terms of what I teach. My area of specialization is in medieval literature, but I also teach a lot of composition courses like this, which draw on a broad range of materials to include. I also, as I pay attention to how the job market changes, or the role of automation in our lives, I think about that in terms of my students and preparation for. So, as an educator, you have this attitude of lifelong learning that you cultivate, but also just everything that you see, you tend to think of in reference to your profession. And if you're a nurse, you're going to have a very deep knowledge of healthcare and practical experience, and that's going to influence how you think about things and approach things as well. So you think about whatever career you have and how that profession really shapes who you are and how you have developed. Okay, I guess we're getting some kind of audio interference. I'm not sure what that is. We have some construction going on outside, so not sure really what I can do there. One moment, I'll try to address that. Okay, so I tried to adjust the audio settings. Hopefully that will help it some. Okay, so as we go through this, oh, I see. So if everyone could, let me see. Okay, try that now. All right. So I think I've muted that. Make sure that your microphone is muted unless you're speaking, because that can interfere with that. So thank you, Dakota. That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, we'll work out the kinks kind of as we go. But in any case, to the memo. So in this memo, it's going to be well structured, clearly structured around a number of different categories. So you start with education. You're going to talk about the educational requirements, job duties, kind of the practical information about it. And then beyond that, you're also going to get into the how it shapes your identity, some traits that are beneficial to that career. So you will essentially incorporate all of that into your analysis. So if we take a look at this sample memo, you get a sense of what I'm talking about. So this particular student was pursuing a career in veterinary medicine. And so as she went through this, she talked in this introductory paragraph about the career, what it does. So this particular branch of medicine deals with prevention, diagnosis, treatment of diseases and disorders and injuries in animals. So it's a very concise, clear definition of the profession. And then beyond that, it moves into what brings her to that. And it provides good business management and communication skills. And then it previews the goal of the essay. So when researching for my future in veterinary medicine, I need to understand educational requirements, job duties, geography, demographics, and so on. And then it goes into these individual sections on education, job duties, geography, and demographics, and then on into beneficial traits and identity reflections. So that essentially is what you're being asked to do. And this sample just gives you a sense of how this assignment is structured. Now, what I could say also about about this is that, within this memo, you are, looking to really show me what you know about the career. You want to bring sources into it. These are sources that are cited in APA, and this is an area that I am focusing on next week, is teaching you how to structure an essay in APA, how to cite sources. So you're going to know how to do that. And you can see at the bottom here, this list of references. These are cited in APA, and we'll talk about how to do that. So this is a really good sample for content, but really also for structure. It gives you a clear sense of what I'm looking for. And this, for example, like this is an APA title page, and that's going to give you a sense of what that looks like. That first draft of this is going to be due on September 8th. So we have several weeks that we're going to work on this. In the second part of class today, I do have an activity that I'm going to have you do really kind of independently, where you're going to start some pre-writing for this. And so you'll want to make sure to complete that. Okay, the home menu here also has the readings for this week, and I wanted to talk first about chapter 1. Chapter 1 is on writing to think and writing to learn. Now, this particular chapter is going to just kind of introduce college writing to you. And I'm not just going to read the whole thing, but just to highlight some of the points here. One is that writing is recursive, and that means that you're focusing on writing as a process. Recursive means to circle back, and this means that as you write something, you go back and you review it, you edit it. You're going to get feedback from me. You'll get feedback from others as well, from classmates, and then you also have tutoring options such as tutor.com or the writing lab. So you have a lot of opportunities to work through it, and you just are constantly going back to it. And even as we move on to new assignments, you are going to take lessons from those assignments and incorporate that and build that into what you're working on. So as part of that, you really need to work to develop your own writing process. So that means that you're thinking about all the steps that you take as a writer, your short and long-term planning. So you have a memo draft due on September 8th. What steps do you need to take between now and then in order to pursue that assignment? Assessing your process. I also think it's important to think about the environment you're writing in. So what is it that you need in order to be effective as a writer? Do you need a quiet space? Do you like to write in the morning or the evening? Do you prefer to write in like a busy cafe where there's more going on? Do you put the TV on? So what is it that you do? And I think that you want to really reflect on that and don't necessarily just do the things you've always been doing, but make changes and see what works for you. And this is something that's really individualized. And I feel the same way about things like pre-writing. I mean, not everyone's going to have the same pre-writing strategies that are most effective for them. So I teach a number of different approaches, and you can use the ones that that work for you. Now, the textbook goes on to talk about rhetoric and the rhetorical situation. What rhetoric means: rhetoric is the art of effective or persuasive speaking or writing. And when we talk about writing in the college classroom, rhetoric really is at the center of things, because all of the writing that we do, it has a particular audience and a particular objective. And what you're trying to demonstrate for me is that you've considered that objective, and you're moving it forward in an organized way. The entire modern university really has rhetoric as a foundation. It was one of the original courses in the medieval university, which is based on a classical Greek education. And rhetoric, grammar, and dialogic were the first three subjects that anyone in a university would take. And from there, you moved on. That was called the trivium, related to our word trivia. And from there, you would move on to what was called the quadrivium, which were four subjects. So you would have astronomy, music, mathematics, and geometry was treated separately. And so you would then move on from that. You would move into philosophy and religion were seen as kind of the highest order. A PhD is still called a doctor of philosophy for this reason. Now, obviously, today we have a lot more specialized majors, but we still have as our basis that broad range of liberal arts is what they're called. So there's the 7 liberal arts that comes from the trivium plus the quadrivium, 3 plus 4, 7. So this is a really deeply rooted aspect of education. And so what rhetoric means in practical terms for us is that all of the writing that you do has an audience and a purpose. So you think about who is my audience and what is my purpose. The audience of the documented memo is me. So I'm your professor, you're writing to me. So what is it that I need to see? What is your purpose? Your purpose is to research a profession and demonstrate to me that you have built up knowledge about that profession, that you know what you need to do in order to reach that. So in terms of education, job duties, that you know the practical information, but also that you've then reflected on how that profession reflects who you are, how that profession is going to develop who you are. So, what is it that you're passionate about? How is it that you're able to express that passion within that context? So the rhetorical situation then is any set of circumstances that involves at least one person using communication to modify the perspectives of one other person. So that the memo fits that situation. You are again demonstrating for me that you've developed a perspective on that career, and that you can share that in clear, well-structured paragraphs. Now, rhetorical analysis. Now, this is something that we're going to return to. That we're going to return to in several units from now. So, Unit 3 is all about rhetorical analysis. You're going to look at an advertisement and break down its message and how it conveys that message to an audience. If you think about life in America today, or around the world, really, and you were to ask yourself, what is the most common identity category through which people communicate to me. And what I mean by that is, of all the messages that we get throughout the day, how does the speaker of that message see me? Do they see us as a citizen who has all these personal liberties and is civic minded and engaged in their community and looking to make a difference? Are they viewing us as professionals or as taxpayers, or as more locally, like as Oklahomans? I would say no to all of that. I think that we are communicated to primarily as consumers, and that is just I think a reality of daily life and everyday experience, that we're treated as people who buy things. And so most of the messages that we get are advertisements. You drive down the street, there's billboards everywhere. There's big signs with arches or ice cream cones or cowboy hats for Arby's or whatever, or Home Depot or Walmart, or all these different places. We bring it into our homes, so we have these smart speakers that we can talk to and order products and all of that. Our phones themselves that we're looking at hours a day we're bombarded with advertising. Every communication medium that you can think of, television, radio. I still subscribe to a newspaper. I know that's kind of rare, but that as well. But really, in the digital world, all our social media. So anyway, and that is, that's fine. I think that being a consumer is not the worst thing to be, and we have a lot of modern conveniences, and I have a phone and I wear the smartwatch and all that. So it's not the worst thing, but I think that what is important is that you develop a sensitivity to and an awareness of that identity as a consumer, to be able to see a message and break down what it's doing and make informed decisions as a consumer, so as not to just be manipulated. And the same is true for any type of propaganda. Propaganda is a term that in political terms is thrown around as something that the other side does. If you're a leftist, Democrat, you perceive propaganda from all of these right-wing news agencies or the president or whatever. If you're a conservative on the right, you're going to see maybe mainstream media as full of propaganda, or particular networks, particular political figures, and then we both agree, like both sides will agree, that there's propaganda happening in other countries, in North Korea or somewhere, but we tend to not be as critical of it in our own place from our own political perspectives. Understandable, but I think that when you engage in rhetorical analysis, you can kind of see beneath the surface of what's happening, and I don't think that necessarily changes your political convictions or political perspectives, but I think that you actually can be more authentic about those convictions if you recognize propaganda, even if it's content that you agree with. So that's what rhetorical analysis is all about, and what we're trying to achieve with that. So it's a concept that I introduced in Chapter 1 that we return to throughout the course, and in particular in Chapter 3, that will be where we apply that most directly to what we're doing. Okay, so that's Chapter 1 of the textbook, and I do have a quiz available for you to take on that. So you will want to make sure that that you do that, and that will be due by the 25th, so by Sunday. So make sure that you do take that quiz. The other reading for today, called Poison People, and this should still share with you guys. Okay, this deals with dealing with kind of toxic people within the workplace, and this doesn't necessarily relate directly to your memo, but certainly it could represent challenges that you would have in a particular profession. How to deal with difficult coworkers or clients or customers, or whatever. How do you manage that? If you are a manager, it's something that you definitely have to take seriously and develop your perspectives on. As someone who works in an organization, you have to figure out, how you're going to adapt to and deal with that. So that's really what this article was addressing and dealing with. And I don't have a lot else to say about that at this point, but we will certainly return to some of those ideas as we go. Now, what I wanted us to do right now is I'm going to set up a writing activity for you, and I'm going to do it as a discussion board, and we're going to kind of try this again. So for the discussion board, how this is going to work. And 5. Okay, so I'm going to set up a discussion board, and I'm going to ask you to complete this, and you're going to complete it by clicking reply on it rather than starting a new board. So I've turned off that function, so you won't be able to do that anyway. But I'm going to get this going, and then I will have you do that. Let me switch something here. Okay. Okay. All right, so I have up here, let me share this with you. Okay, so discussion board 2, you click on discussions, and it's right there. So what you do is you click on that, and then you read the prompts, and you click reply. So you do that rather than starting a new board. So you click reply, you type your response, you click post. And so what it's asking you to describe your first work experience. Did it meet your expectations? What was rewarding or challenging about that experience? And then what lessons do you take from that experience to future work? So you can just write a post that answers those 4 questions, and that is the activity that I was having the class do on campus. So I'm going to have you complete that. You can complete that kind of at your own pace, but we're just going to review those in class next time. So discussion board 2, I will post an announcement as soon as we wrap up here about that with the recording from today. So that's what I want you to be working on, and we're then going to next time go into some other activities that are going to prepare us for this particular memo assignment. There we go. Okay, so there's that. In week 2, we're going to be looking at a couple of different articles on Monday. So American Identity Crisis and the End of Work. So I want you to come to class prepared to work on those. We work on chapter 9 on Wednesday of next week, and you'll have a chapter 9 quiz. The draft of the documented memo is going to be due on September 8th. So that's sort of the big assignment that we're working towards. I'm going to be covering APA as well, so we'll have some opportunities to work through that. So what I want you to do now is to turn your attention to that discussion board 2. Make sure that you complete that. So if you're watching the recording, that's what we're working on. The quizzes are not timed, no, and they're 5 multiple choice questions, so they're fairly quick. I guess it was a private question, but I'll answer that for the class. So the quizzes are not timed. They do simply ask you questions out of the book. They're open book, 5 questions, multiple choice. So the timing won't actually be an issue on those. Good question. So I had a question. Did we do the introductions correctly? No, but it wasn't really your fault. It was because the board was set up to allow you to create a whole new topic. But instead, what you're doing is you should respond to the topic. So when you see discussion board 1, you type a reply instead of starting a new one. Okay, but that should be fixed now. So you're just going to, when you go to discussions, you'll see discussion board 2, and you just click reply, and then you post that. Oops, sorry, I meant to send that to everyone. Okay, there we go. And sorry, James, I didn't mean to send that just to you. Okay, so that should be that. Any other questions before we wrap up the recording session? All right, so I'm going to I'm going to stop the recording now, and then I will answer some questions here. So if you're on, I'll still be here. I'm just stopping the recording.